On a quiet street in Johannesburg, a man opened a bag to sell what he believed was a guaranteed payday. Inside was a small scaled animal, curled so tightly into a ball that it looked almost lifeless. The buyer he had arranged to meet was not a buyer at all. He was part of a sting operation, and within moments, police moved in. The trafficker was arrested. The animal inside the bag, terrified, barely 3 months old, was still too young to have been separated from his mother. This was the beginning of the story of Kulu. The operation belonged to the African Pangolin Working Group, an organization founded by zoologist Ray Jansen. For years, Jansen and his team had posed as buyers in undercover stings, intercepting traffickers before the animals could be shipped overseas. Between 2016 and 2024, that work led to the rescue of more than 300 live pangolins and nearly 700 arrests. Each rescue followed the same grim pattern: a trafficker expecting cash, and a small, defenseless creature caught in the middle of a trade most people had never even heard of. For a long time, catching a trafficker meant almost nothing. Before 2017, arrests in South Africa often ended in nothing more than a small fine, a cost of doing business for people trading in one of the world's most valuable illegal commodities. That began to change as conservationists like Jansen started appearing in court as expert witnesses, explaining exactly what these animals suffered during capture and transport. Sentences began stretching to years instead of fines, up to 10 years in some cases. But changing the law did nothing for the animal already sitting in a bag on a Johannesburg street, waiting to find out whether he would live. Pangolins are the most trafficked mammals on Earth, hunted for scales used in traditional medicine markets. Their only natural defense is to curl into a tight ball when threatened, a strategy that works against lions and leopards, but does nothing against a man with a sack. It is precisely this vulnerability that makes them so easy to steal and so hard to save. The pangolin pulled from that bag was initially named Gijima. He was underweight, dehydrated, too young to survive without help. He was taken to the Johannesburg Wildlife Veterinary Hospital, where staff began the slow process of stabilizing him, monitoring every gram he gained and every sign that his small body was recovering from the shock of capture. Medical care alone would not be enough. A rescued pangolin needs something far harder to provide in captivity: the ability to forage for food on his own terms, at his own pace, in the wild. That is where Gareth Thomas entered the story. Thomas was not a biologist, not a wildlife veterinarian. He was a South African investment manager who volunteered with the African Pangolin Working Group, and he was assigned an unusual role: volunteer pangolin walker. The title sounds simple, the reality was not. Pangolins rarely eat while in captivity. To survive, they need to walk, sniffing out ants and termites across real terrain, digging and licking them up the way they would in the wild. For a pangolin recovering from the trauma of trafficking, that meant daily walks that could stretch up to 6 hours. Often at night, since pangolins are largely nocturnal. Thomas began following Gijima through the bush, night after night, adjusting his own life around the rhythm of an animal that had no interest in cooperating with him. The pangolin, later renamed Kulu, made his own priorities clear from the start. He was, by every account from those who worked with him, stubborn, independent, more interested in going his own direction than in being led by the person walking behind him. There was no obedience to build, no trick to teach. The only goal was survival. And survival meant becoming an animal capable of living entirely without the man now spending his nights beside him. Weeks turned into months. Kulu grew stronger, and the relationship between him and Thomas deepened in ways that surprised people who worked around them daily. But growing attached to a rescued pangolin carries its own quiet danger, one that has nothing to do with poachers. The African Pangolin Working Group has released close to 100 rescued pangolins back into protected wilderness over the years. Not all of them survived. Some were taken within their first night back in the wild by lions, hyenas, leopards, honey badgers. Others died after contact with the electric fences that mark the edges of the reserves meant to protect them. Even 6 months of careful rehabilitation offered no guarantee. Kulu was being prepared for release into the Lapalala Wilderness Reserve, a vast stretch of mountains, wetlands, and grassland in South Africa's Waterberg region. The team had built him a new facility there, a halfway house between hospital and freedom, designed to ease animals like him back into the wild. The day was coming when Thomas would have to walk beside Kulu one last time, remove himself from the equation entirely, and trust an animal who had known nothing but human care since the night he was rescued, to survive completely on his own. Whether Kulu would become one of the survivors or one of the animals that never made it through that first night was a question no one could answer in advance. Kulu's early days with Thomas were nothing like a bond forming. Pangolins are solitary by nature, and this one carried the added weight of having been ripped from his mother and stuffed into a trafficker's bag. Every instinct told him to run. Thomas spent his first week simply following, keeping distance, letting the animal set the terms. He still called him Gijima then, the name given at the hospital. In the local language, it meant something close to run, fitting for an animal who bolted at the first opportunity. As the pangolin slowly began accepting Thomas's presence, allowing him closer during the long nightly forages, Thomas gave him a new name, Kulu, meaning something closer to ease or calm. The name change wasn't ceremonial. It marked a real shift in the animal in front of him. That shift did not happen in a straight line. There were nights when Kulu covered enormous distances across the reserve while barely eating, and his weight started dropping in a way that alarmed the people tracking him. There was a stretch when he vanished from the satellite tracker entirely for 2.5 hours, long enough for real fear to set in. And there was a moment, caught on camera, when Kulu wandered straight toward one of the electric fences lining the edge of the reserve, the same kind of fence that kills a significant share of Temminck's pangolins in South Africa every year. Thomas reached him just in time. Slowly, the walks changed character. Kulu began trusting the route, trusting the rhythm, trusting in his own limited way the man behind him. Thomas has described talking to him during these walks the way a parent talks to a child, quiet, instinctive, telling him to stay in the shade, to slow down. It wasn't training. Pangolins can't be trained the way dogs can. It was closer to companionship, built one uneventful night at a time. By the time Kulu reached a healthy release weight, close to 6.5 kilograms, the team judged him ready. Lapalala Wilderness Reserve, a 48,000-hectare stretch of land about 4 hours from Johannesburg, had recently opened something new, a pangolarium, a halfway facility built specifically for animals like Kulu, bridging the space between hospital recovery and full wild release. It was here that Thomas began the process of stepping back. That process was harder than any of the physical walking had been. Thomas has spoken about learning to stop being what he called a helicopter parent, forcing himself to let Kulu wander farther, intervene less, trust the animal's own instincts even when every part of him wanted to stay close. There was one moment, witnessed and later described by those present, when Kulu appeared to signal in his own way that he was ready to be left alone. It wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, the kind of moment easy to miss if you weren't watching closely. The final stretch tested that trust directly. After release, Kulu disappeared for 6 days, untraceable, until the team found signs that he'd become trapped inside a collapsed burrow. Thomas has described digging through the ground, fully expecting to find him dead. He didn't. Kulu was alive, and once freed, he continued on, moving deeper into the reserve, farther from the man who had walked beside him for months. Today, Kulu lives wild inside Lapalala, one of the rare rescued pangolins to make it through the most dangerous stretch after release. The African Pangolin Working Group has released close to 100 pangolins over the years, and not all of them survived the transition back to the wild. Kulu did. The organization continues its rescue work, and the Pangolarium at Lapalala now serves as a model other reserves are studying, a direct result of what was learned keeping one specific animal alive. Thomas still works with the African Pangolin Working Group. He has said the goal was never to keep Kulu close. It was always to make himself unnecessary, to build an animal capable of surviving without him, and then to let that animal disappear into the landscape he was always meant to belong to. If Kulu's story affected you, say so in the comments. What part of this stayed with you? And if you want more true stories like this one, subscribe, because there are more out there worth telling.